Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Resilinc would like to welcome everyone to our webinar on how enterprises are leveraging Resilinc's AI technology to monitor supply chain disruptions. My name is Jigar Shah. I am the Vice President of Corporate, Product, and Partner Marketing at Resilinc. I'll be one of your speakers today. Before we get started, I'd like to cover some quick housekeeping items. All audience members will be placed on mute during the duration of the webinar. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to submit them via the QA box in your right nav or the chat box. At the end of the webinar, as time permits, we will answer your questions in order we receive them. We'll do our best to cover them today or follow up with you right after this webinar. But please just want to let you know that this webinar will be recorded and will be available after the broadcast. And again, thank you for joining. Today's agenda, we will be covering Resilinc supply chain monitoring visibility solutions and how they help organizations like yours. This includes the following capabilities: EventWatch, ability to monitor over 400 risk types across the globe; WeatherWatch, ability to integrated predictive analytics that can provide advanced warning on all types of weather events and patterns; Commodity Watch, delivering data-driven predictions on pricing and capacity for all your rare earth minerals and critical raw materials; Logistics Watch, as we all have witnessed in the past 18 months, transportation challenges has become one of the critical components of any supply chain risk program. Resilinc has been driving towards enhancing monitoring and visibility solutions for all your supply, shipping, and transit lanes. Additionally, we will be providing insights on key supply chain disruptions across the globe that are occurring now, that are affecting you and your supply chain teams. I would like to invite our special guest speaker today, Shahzaib Khan. Shahzaib Khan is the Senior Director of Product and is responsible for driving innovations across Resilinc's EventWatch product family and its data services. Under Shahzaib's guidance, the EventWatch family of products monitors millions of news sources daily, alerting Resilinc customers and suppliers with well-researched, actionable notifications when supply chain disruptions occur or will be occurring in the horizon. With more than 10 years of experience with product and supply chain, Shahzaib has worked with more than 1,000 companies across Global 5,000 and with great success in helping advance supply chain risk programs with technologies like NLP, AI, and ML. Welcome, Shahzaib. Shahzaib,
Thank
you there?
you, Jigar, and I welcome everyone on the webinar.
Shahzaib, you know, a lot of companies that join these webinars and a lot of companies that we talk to, they all want to know how do organizations get started with monitoring their suppliers?
Sure. As we all know, modern supply chains are complex. They are interlinked and super sensitive to so many factors. You know, the probability of something going wrong in some part of the world affecting your supply chain, it keeps increasing. In fact, it has already increased significantly. And if you're not aware, if you're not well informed, if you're not prepared, if you don't have the visibility, you are more vulnerable and you're always reacting. Visibility is super critical and it starts right here. It starts with the mapping and monitoring the supply chain 24/7. And to be more proactive, you have to map where your suppliers are, where your sub-tiers are, their locations, how your parts touch different locations, when your material flows, and you know what are the factors that influence your material while it's transit. And believe me, it cannot be effective without the technology, digitization, and automation. And that's what Resilinc provides. Next slide. Resilinc has invested heavily in AI-based supply chain solutions, and today we will walk you through some of them. These solutions help you, and they're already helping our customers digitize, structure, and automate the supply chains. Be more proactive and be more prepared, and of course, be more aware. Visibility is the key. And I see companies all the time struggling with lack of visibility. They might have the disruption awareness. They may know that an earthquake just hit northern Taiwan, but they don't know how it affects them, how a disruption affects their supply chain, their product, their materials, and they're always missing some pieces that put them in the reactive mode. And even when they are reacting to a disruption, the missing pieces of information and the right technology makes it very difficult, to react in a timely manner. They might have one piece of the puzzle, but missing two. For example, commodity disruption and the information about a commodity being disrupted is available, but material flow is not. Or even if material flow is available, it's not structured. And as we all know, when a material flow, from moving from node to node, country to country, over 300 plus factors influence its supply chain. This is why we have, invested a lot of time and effort to build capabilities to, to clear view of all types of factors to provide you visibility into every factor that influences your material flow. And we do it by building AI-based solutions, technology that helps assess and quantify potential impact in a well-structured manner. Now, before I start, let me highlight one of the key drivers of Resilinc platform, and its personalization. Our solutions are scalable and flexible to the user. They're built on easy to configure APIs and easy to configure the amount of information, personalized information. If your responsibility area is limited to plastics or limited to a specific part category, or maybe a certain set of part categories, or certain set of suppliers or supplier types, or maybe let's say you're only concerned if a plastic supplier is affected by a factory fire in Mexico. So you're limited to a specific supplier category, you're limited to a specific region, and you're only concerned about a specific type of disruption. You can perfectly personalize it. Let's say you have onboarded your cybersecurity department, and this is a use case that is becoming very common on Resilinc platform. A lot of companies these days, they're onboarding their information security departments. Their area of responsibility is very limited. The kind of customization this platform offers, you can perfectly set them up for what is relevant to them. Next slide. Now, EventWatch, I always get excited, when I'm talking about EventWatch, because this is our flagship product. This is the parent of a lot of different products that we have created. The AI-based solution, it's an AI-based solution, supply chain, event monitoring and alerting solution. It serves thousands of brands worldwide. It provides near real-time visibility into what's happening in your supply chains. And not just that, it keeps you informed about multi-tier disruptions. Every vertical that serves into your supply chain, for example, your indirect suppliers, you may have a good visibility in your tier one suppliers today, but this takes you into your end tier suppliers, utility suppliers, cargo and logistics, packaging, labeling, regulatory and compliance, a lot of your financial suppliers, or the financial health of your suppliers. And with the new launch, EventWatch 4.0, which was launched in 2021. We now monitor 4.2 million sources worldwide. This includes social media, general news media, public and private sources. We also monitor a lot of blog and forums and a lot of print media sources as well across 108 languages. And we have our presence in over 190 countries. And we keep expanding because more mapping activity is happening on Resilinc platform. Our visibility keeps expanding to newer regions. It structures the unstructured information. It categorizes the information into 40 plus kinds of disruptions. And as you will notice, some of these event types are very unique to EventWatch. It relies heavily on artificial intelligence and natural language processing. It's a perfect combination of people, processes, and technology. Before a news enters EventWatch AI models, it's mostly just a news. But when it comes out, it's a well-targeted, well-structured, and tailored supply chain event alert, and it's personalized. In the process of keeping you informed about these supply chain disruptions, there's a 69% chance, and this is coming from our analytics from 2020. There's a 69% chance that an event hits one of your suppliers. In that case, EventWatch also creates a war room for you where you can assess and analyze your potential impact, start collaborating with the key stakeholders, create tasks and assign those tasks to different responsible stakeholders. And of course, you can initiate predefined playbooks based on the nature and severity of the disruption. One really interesting piece of this product is it's not just reactive. It's not just when the disruption happens and you're reacting. You can also simulate scenarios. You can be more proactive. For example, your next target for the next 2 weeks is analyzing every supplier that has a risk score above 6, and or they're the most riskiest suppliers. You can be more proactive. You can simulate those scenarios. You can also simulate hurricane season before even it starts. This product will allow you to do that. And the good thing is that it's mobile enabled. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we monitor 4.2 million sources in over 108 languages across 190 countries. All these sources are bucketed. We have a lot of sources that are specific to some certain types of risks. For example, regulatory and compliance have its own sources. A lot of social media, I think up to 8 social media sources that we have incorporated. And on the right side, you can see all the languages. There are around 108 languages that we are monitoring today. WeatherWatch is a child product to our EventWatch solution. It uses the same coverage and technology with some additional rules and models. Considering how climate change has increased the intensity and the frequency of these naturally caused disruptions, we were working on this product since 2020, and it was launched recently, a month back. It basically monitors global weather patterns and alerts and provides customers real-time visibility into potential red zones. It is capable of processing and structuring over 50 plus weather phenomena. It categorizes them into advisories, warnings, and watches, and alerts customers with an ample amount of lead time. Now, the question I often get from the customers is, how is it different from EventWatch? Because EventWatch also alerts us about the storms and hurricanes and a lot of different weather naturally caused events. It is different from EventWatch because EventWatch alerts you only when a storm develops and it is certain to cause disruptions. And that's how EventWatch models were tuned to avoid noise. EventWatch considers watches and warnings and advisories as noise. But there were some use cases that were brought forward to us where these warnings and watches were, critical. So we had to build these new models where, we alert you when there are advisories and watches and warnings with an increased time to prepare. And again, visibility and preparedness. Just like other solutions, the good thing about WeatherWatch is that user can personalize this solution. It really depends on your responsibility area. It really depends on your use cases. For example, one use case that we have on our platform, where a retail customer, they they take decisions like when to start stockpiling certain retail branches, or when to evacuate their staff, or what kind of temperature their trucks should have when they're passing through a certain region. So there are different use cases that we are seeing, and customers are adopting to them, and it's all personalized.
Shazab, there's a question for you. Can this
Sure.
all be integrated into one kind of solution where you can actually see things in transit and potential divert in transit as you need to with
That's how
WeatherWatch and
exactly
EventWatch?
that's how exactly it works. It's all integrated into one solution. They are child products of EventWatch, but they're also complementing EventWatch. So it's not that WeatherWatch is completely in silo. WeatherWatch also brings the intelligence and information within that war room that EventWatch creates for you. So it's all in one system. You're not following multiple different systems to mitigate different disruptions.
I got an additional question to that. So
Mhm.
can you communicate with your supplier as it's in motion as you get updates?
Yeah, the collaboration with your internal teams and with your suppliers, it was launched in 2020. It's already there in our product since over a year now. You can also use your mobile phone, the EventWatch mobile app, to start the communication with your internal. As soon you receive a war room, it enables you to start that instant messaging with your internal teams and your suppliers.
That's great, great insights, Shazab. Thank you.
Now, Commodity Watch AI, it also utilizes the same infrastructure of EventWatch. This is the product that's keeping us very, very busy these days. As you know, almost every material is affected, and there are so many different factors that are influencing the supply and demand of those materials. And this solution was actually designed to empower your commodity managers, your buyers, and your estimation teams with the commodity related intelligence. Commodity Watch predicts future fluctuations in commodity supply and prices. It processes over 100 variables that influence the supply and demand of a commodity. And if there is a misbalance, it predicts the price. Based on the analysis of these variables, the AI predicts fluctuations in supply and demand, and then the potential impact on prices. There are around 100 plus variables. Of course, different commodities have different variables depending on where they are sourced from, where they are consumed, and what is the transit, or what is their material flow. So every stage of that commodity in its life cycle has different variables that are influencing its supply, demand, and prices. Next slide. Resilinc has annotated relevant commodity data going back to 10 plus years. So we had this millions of data feeds that we have been collecting from EventWatch module. For this product, for the Commodity Watch product, we've taken the same data, we annotated that data. We took one commodity at a time, for example, copper, and we annotated millions of data points from past 11 years, and to extract every variable, every factor that can potentially affect the supply and demand of copper, and then eventually affects the prices. Copper came up, with around 73 different factors. Most of those factors, they affect a lot of different metals, but copper itself has around 73 different factors that affect its prices. Now, the interesting part is that the Commodity Watch AI is, it's trained in a way that it also gives you a predictive estimate or estimated duration as well. For example, if it's predicting that copper prices will go up, it will tell you that the prices are expected to go up and why. It will give you all the factors that it has identified, and it will also tell you that within next 30 days or next 60 days or next 90 days. These are the 29 commodities that you see on your screen that we have incorporated into this product, and we are working on more as more and more customers get onboarded. Next slide. As we all know, raw material, previous slide, please. Raw material shortages and disruptions are a big concern, especially these days. Having such kind of commodity intelligence proactively available, having proactive visibility into the factors that affect these commodities and their availability, we believe it really helps companies avoid unexpected long lead times. It also, helps in the process of contract renewals or negotiations with your suppliers. This kind of intelligence, when your suppliers have it, it also helps them with sourcing their raw materials. Next slide. Logistics Watch, again, it's another solution. You can call it as a child solution to EventWatch. What EventWatch does today, and it's been doing it for a long time, is it monitors all your airports, all your ports, all your border crossings, any critical logistic hubs, any critical routes where you have a big chunk of revenue associated. EventWatch monitors that already. What EventWatch does not do is monitor your POs real time, your shipments real time, provide the exact location of where your PO is, what is the schedule at the next stop. That's something that EventWatch was not doing, and we are now adding it through our new offering called Logistics Watch. Logistics Watch will be able to map all your historic POs to different routes, the routes that are frequently taken by these POs, and provide you visibility into those routes, all the waypoints your POs touch, and visibility into those waypoints, any disruptions happening at your waypoints. One interesting piece, next slide. Through this solution, Resilinc also provides you real-time visibility into disruptions that affect shipping and logistics routes that are in and POs that are in transit. And in the process of providing real-time visibility, we partner with companies that are already doing this for decades. And through those partnerships and integrations, we provide you visibility into where exactly your PO is and what is the schedule what is the estimated time of arrival. We have also seen some cases where customers are already working with a transportation visibility provider. If that's the case, we also integrate with your existing TVS provider, bring that solution within Resilinc. And if you don't have a TVS provider, but you are interested in real-time visibility, we also have some partnerships that we offer.
So, Jose, this is an interesting thing, and I'd love to understand a little more about this. So, are you saying that you do incorporate EventWatch disruption data, weather data with your in-motion shipping data and commodity data
Yeah.
all as one environment?
Yeah, very interesting question, right? Because and I think I did not make it clear. There are two kinds of solutions that we offer right now. One is basic, which provides you visibility into the routes that your POs have taken historically. And that basic solution is not providing you the real-time visibility. It's providing you visibility based on historical data that, the waypoints and the routes that your PO has been taking historically, and it gives you visibility into those routes. That's the basic solution. Now, the next level of this solution is the integrated solution, and that's where we integrate into these partner companies that provide real-time tracking. And the war rooms and the event watch, weather watch, commodity watch, all this data plus the integrated real-time transportation visibility data, it all becomes available in one solution. You can track your shipments, within Resilinc platform. You can reroute your shipments. You can book your POs. You can integrate your POs. You can integrate your ASNs or any other kinds of EDIs within one solution.
And so one of the questions we have is, so with the current solution without a TVS partner, can you also monitor ports and other shipping hubs?
Yeah, that's something that we are already doing, right? EventWatch monitors all your shipping hubs. EventWatch monitors all your ports. For example, if there's a crane collapsed at a port in Taiwan, EventWatch alerts you about that. And if that port is mapped in your supply chain, EventWatch also creates a war room. So that visibility is already there through EventWatch. But if you want some additional visibility into the transit and the routes as well, for example, if a hurricane develops in the middle of Pacific and you want to know which POs they take that route, you will be able to achieve that level of visibility through Logistics Watch.
This is great insight. This is pretty exciting. All the stuff you're doing in with Lane Watch and the Resilinc and TVS solution base. So
yeah, we are very excited about this offering. I think it really completes the logistics plus supply chain visibility into one platform.
So a lot of things are going on in the world, Shazib, right now, and we are tracking a lot of events. Your team is super busy and growing very quickly. Can we go through a couple of the major events that are occurring and give us insights into what you're seeing and what your when we started monitoring it, why are we monitoring? Kind of give us some little bit of insights, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I think most of us are already aware of some of the big events that are still developing, and there's a lot of uncertainty. For example, the post-COVID demand. For example, the energy crisis started from China, but it's now expanding to the rest of the world as well. And then the most critical part is how these energy crises are affecting your material. And then you also have, on the top of that, you also have your ports congested. And there are so many factors influencing all this. For example, why China is facing that shortage in the first place, right? The geopolitical conflict they had with Australia. 70% of China's power generation relies on coal. 10% of their coal supplies were affected due to the conflict with Australia. Then extreme weather and flooding that affected a lot of their internal coal supplies. On the top of that, they keep refining their safety protocols for coal mining. To be honest, coal was not a critical commodity until recently. A lot of the predictions that started coming out were actually from starting from December 2020. After December 2020, it became very critical because of its consumption in power. Otherwise, over the last few years, what we were seeing was coal was slowly, becoming least critical commodity, and a lot of bankruptcies you will see in coal mining because there were no buyers. And a lot of controls over emissions was also affecting coal supplies because it generates a lot of emissions. A lot of countries are moving away from the coal-powered power plants. But then it takes a U-turn in December 2020. The post-COVID demand. There are a lot of factors. For example, you have post-COVID demand. It increased significantly. You have extreme heat in China and rest of the world as well in June, July, that influenced the demand. Then there's a holiday season coming up that's also influencing the demand. Then there's a Chinese New Year around the corner. Companies like to start stockpiling in Q4 because there's a shutdown coming in China. So a lot of different factors influencing the demand of coal, and a lot of factors that are influencing its supplies, and it has created a big crisis. Next slide. Now, aluminium, through the commodity watch intelligence, we learned that this was actually the very first commodity affected by all the energy curves and emission curves in China. They were, if you look at the commodity watch intelligence, you will learn that Q4, quarter 4 last year and quarter 1 this year, China has put a lot of restrictions around aluminium refining and smelting. Even this, they tried to move all the aluminium industry to the neighboring countries, and they're still working on it, and it has affected this commodity significantly. As we all know, aluminium creates a lot of emissions, the refining of aluminium, and it consumes a lot of power. So both these things go against this commodity.
So Shazay, well, one of the questions we had was, how are Chinese based companies dealing with the emissions issues?
So there are a lot of restrictions that the government has identified, and they are based on a dual policy, or basically they call it dual policy, but it's basically two factors: how much energy you consume and how much emissions you create. Now, if you fall in that matrix where you are consuming a lot of energy as well as releasing a lot of emissions, you will be definitely affected. And we have seen disruptions in some metal refining. We have seen disruptions in cement. We have also seen disruptions in other industries that also create a lot of emission and consume a lot of electricity. And this, as we head into winter and later part of the Q4, you will see more production cuts and more disruptions because the government will try to utilize those resources elsewhere. And then don't forget that there's a Winter Olympic coming up as well. So there are a lot of things that, then you have a conflict developing around Taiwan as well. So a lot of factors to keep an eye on.
Jose,
Yeah,
so
so silicon
sorry.
is very interesting because until recently, if you start looking into silicon, you will realize that this world will never run out of silicon supplies because it consumes the major part of the earth crust. But this really surprised us because of all these factors, all these disruptions happening in the energy sector, and how silicon supplies have been affected. And again, the factors are the same: energy curves, emission curves, logistics. Same factors that are affecting other commodities. But we are very surprised that silicon is affected, and because of silicon impact, you now have impacts into a lot of consumer goods, a lot of healthcare, single-use products as well.
So why is silicon so dependent, Jose? Can you give us better understanding of why it's so critical in this situation?
Yeah, again, we have not seen any signs of silicon affecting the prices of semiconductor yet, but there is a possibility. The usage of or the reliance of silicon, semiconductor on silicon is very limited, but there is a chance that if it keeps going on, there might be some impact there. Silicon is also affected because of the emissions and energy curves in China. They are the major producers, they are the major refiners, and they are the major suppliers. And then a lot of consumption is also in China itself. So it's becoming critical. It has soared over 300% over the last 2 months. We started providing some visibility and some predictions to our customers early this year about silicon, aluminum, magnesium, a lot of different materials. And this is what is happening now. And it will keep getting worse into the winter. Yeah, magnesium is, to be honest, it's another factor in the aluminum prices. Magnesium plays a major role in the refining of aluminum, and magnesium is also in shortage. 87% of global output of magnesium metal comes from China. 65% of this production capacity is limited to one region in China, and the production cuts and energy curbs and the carbon emission curbs, they're affecting magnesium as well. So again, factors, the influencing factors that Commodity Watch analyzes, they're all same for multiple different commodities, but how the commodities react to those factors, that's the difference. For example, right now you will see that if you look at the Commodity Watch intelligence, you will see that some of the commodities are heading into the green zone, where the prices are expected to go down. For example, palladium, for example, tin. A lot of commodities are also heading towards the green zone, but there's a big red zone for a lot of different metals and chemicals that is coming up.
And Jose, this is across a lot of industries, right? Because silicon is used in both healthcare, med devices, semiconductors, consumer electronics, as well as magnesium in the production of a lot of these items, right?
That's correct. Silicon, it has its grades. Different grades are utilized in different industries. but it's dependent on the the mining of the silicon which exists in the earth crust. It's very rich. Nobody ever thought that silicon will run out of the supply or into shortage, but right now we are facing it, and of course all the grades that are developed through that metal or utilizing that metal, they will all be affected in one way or the other.
This is great insights, Shazay. This is really helpful. Thank you.
Excuse me. Transportation, yeah, I'll just briefly talk about it. I think we have talked enough about transportation, but we all know the transportation crisis. It has been developing since some time. At Resilinc, and Resilinc customers were aware of it. We have been monitoring it since a very long time. Again, there are a lot of different factors involved. Of course, the demand factor is there, but then you had Brexit that affected the transportation. Then you had labor shortage. One thing that nobody talks about is technology. I believe, and Resilinc believes, that lack of technology is also one of the major contributors. Right now, you will hear about a lot about the labor shortages. You will hear a lot about the volume that has increased. But these ports and these waypoints also lack the technology, and that's another reason why we are seeing so many congestions. Then you have warehousing that is affected. Multiple ports are affected because they don't have the storage space available. Yesterday, I think, or the day before, the Los Angeles and Long Beach ports, they announced that they will start charging the companies for how long their containers stay at the ports and their warehouses. So that's also coming, something to keep an eye on.
Do you feel that this is going to get, because these extreme measures that you're seeing from both President Biden as well as from local authorities within these ports, do you think the backlog is going to get worse or better, or is there any kind of mindset from your standpoint in the near term?
To be honest, I feel like they have already taken a lot of steps. For example, some of the ports moved their operations into the weekends as well. Some of the ports moved their operations to 24/7. So these backlogs have improved slightly, but then there are some factors that you cannot quickly fix. You need time, you need resources, especially the technology factor. A lot of these ports, they need newer technology. They need to go from labor intensive to technology based.
And then what about the holiday season? How is that? How are you seeing that come into play?
Holiday season, of course, it's a concern. The volume at the ports will increase, but I'm more concerned about the Olympics, Winter Olympics, and the Chinese New Year. Those two factors will force the companies to increase their inventories and start stockpiling, because China will be a specific radius for Winter Olympics in China will be affected, and the entire country will shut down for 2 weeks during the Chinese New Year. So I think those two factors will force the companies to increase their orders, and of course it will be more burden on the ports.
That's really good insights. I didn't think of that. That's really good insights to have. Thanks, Jose.
Sure. Yeah, we've touched the base about ports, airports, border crossings. Suez Canal was one example where the blockage of over 7 days affected the supply chains across the world. Then you had, if you go a few years back, you had a Tianjin explosion, then you had Beirut explosion. So these waypoints in your transportation and your transit, pure transit, they're becoming very, very critical. And it's very important that we have visibility into what's going on. A crane collapsed at a port in Taiwan, affected the schedules of all the ships that were incoming and all the ships that were already waiting. So that kind of visibility is super critical, and I believe Logistics Watch is a perfect solution to resolve that problem.
This is great insights, Shazade. We'll open up to some Q&A. We have some really good questions for you, Shazade.
Sure.
So we'll open the Q&A. So the first question I have for you is, how are you able to map this data, the commodity data, to the companies, to your customers, and know when the fluctuations happen, and how do you provide the impact quantifications of them?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Basically, the question is that if a commodity is affected, how do you know that which part and which part categories will be affected? So Resilinc will, this commodity watch solution allows you to map different raw materials to different part categories. For example, when aluminum predictions started coming out, and I think the first prediction came out in January or possibly December last year, as soon that prediction came out, it will show you that these are all the parts that consume this raw material, and these are all the categories of the parts, and which products these parts are used in, what is the associated revenue with those products, what kind of locations, suppliers, sub-tiers, locations are involved in the process of this entire material flow. So you will be able to see a full hierarchy of the product, starting from a raw material disruption.
Thank you, Shazade. I have another question. How is EventWatch update as the location of the material in transit is moving? Is it real time, or is it passive activities, manual passive activities?
Yeah, EventWatch is not providing you the real-time location of your shipment or your container or the PO. It's the logistics watch that will provide you the real-time visibility into where your PO is today and where your PO is expected to be tomorrow. What is the processing time at the next stop? What is the delay? What is the expected arrival time? So all that intelligence, considering your PO that is in transit, it's coming from the logistics watch. Where EventWatch plays its role is EventWatch tells logistics watch that the next stop or the next waypoint where this PO is expected to arrive has a disruption. That's where EventWatch plays its role. And then all the schedules that get updated, it comes from the logistics watch and the integrations that we do with different partner companies.
We have another question, Shazade.
Sure.
How does one leverage the Resilinc system to capture and incorporate second and third tier supply chain in order to monitor and alert on the risk?
Yeah, what I've seen is that a lot of companies, when they join Resilinc, they have very limited visibility into their sub-tiers. So what EventWatch does is, we keep you informed about every vertical that potentially serves into your supply chain. For example, you may not have mapped, if you're, let's say, life sciences company, and you may not have mapped any labeling or any bottling companies or any packaging companies. You don't have anything mapped on Resilinc platform that you're monitoring. EventWatch will still keep you informed about the disruptions that are happening in those verticals. EventWatch, if a labeling company that serves into life sciences vertical is affected, it doesn't matter if you have mapped it as your supplier or not, EventWatch will keep you informed. Now that's level 1 visibility. Level 2, which is more precise and targeted, is where you actually start mapping your sub-tiers. There's a lot of different ways to do that. One, you as a customer provide Resilinc that information, and we get it mapped. We get it on a map, and we start monitoring it. That's one way. Second way is that you provide us your parts. We go to your suppliers, we work very closely with your suppliers, and we get all those parts mapped to every location that they touch. It could be a processing, manufacturing location, it could be a fabrication, warehousing. So once those tier 1 parts get mapped to all those tier 1 locations, the next level is go to tier 2s. Then we start, mapping your tier 2 supply chain. So over time, as you are maturing, your visibility is also maturing over on Resilinc platform. And of course, when we are working with your tier 1 suppliers on getting their locations mapped, we also get the sub-tier information from your tier 1s, where they are getting their parts from, and that plays a very big part in when we start going into the sub-tier mapping.
That's great, Shadeb. One last question, Shadeb,
Sure.
is how do you get this alert on an issue at a port, and how do you get it to match up to the PO? So it's the ability to match up a port issue with the PO.
Yeah, so there, as I mentioned, there are two solutions, right? The basic solution will have that PO mapped to a waypoint. So that port becomes a waypoint, and that PO travels. It's not a dynamic PO. It's not the real-time PO. It's your historical PO. And then you know which parts are in that PO and that touch that waypoint. As soon that port is affected, you know which parts potentially take that route, and it's not real time again. Now, the second more targeted, more precise solution that we offer is the integrated solution, where we integrate with the companies that you're already working with, companies that are already providing you the real-time visibility into your shipments and POs. We integrate with those companies, and now all that information becomes available within Resilinc. Your real-time PO information, and the integration is based on a lot of electronically shared documents, between the origin and destination. For example, ASN, for example, other kinds of bill of lading, and other kinds of EDIs that we standardize, and from there we get the information about where your PO is, where it's expected to go next, the next stop, what is the processing time at the next stop, and what is the delay in the processing time at the next stop, then what is the transit time between the stop 2 and stop 3. The integrated real-time information is dependent on the companies that you're already working with. They provide us that information. If you don't have a company that you're working with, but you are interested in real-time PO monitoring, then we have partnered with companies like Bloom and Forkites, and we're also working on more partnerships. We can also integrate your PO information with those companies and start monitoring them real time.
So that's a good question and follow-up question. So Are you set up for one company in any of these situations, service provider, or is it an easy API that you can configure to any based on the customer requirements?
Yeah, it's the integration is dependent on the APIs, REST APIs. APIs are basically connecting to databases. So our database is connected to the company, your TVS provider database, and they're coming. Both databases are communicating in real time. That's what API is. So it's very much reliant on how good the API is. For example, if you're working with a TVS provider and their API is not rich, it's not up to the standard, we will still be able to integrate, but the quality of that information will really depend on how good their APIs are. That's why we cherry picked some partners that have really good data, really good depth of data, and really good APIs as well.
Perfect. This is great, Shahzaib. This is great. Thank you for your time, Shahzaib, and super happy for all this information you provided us. And again, to the audience, thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful. Again, like we said before, all attendees will get the webinar recording after this call. And if you have any further questions, feel free to contact us at sales@resilinc.com. Thank you, Shahzaib. Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
everyone. Thanks for your time. Have a good rest of the day.